It began on an ordinary day on Earth, in a large underground research base hidden beneath the Nevada desert. A group of human scientists were testing a new type of deep space communication device. The goal was simple: to send a peaceful message far into space, farther than any human message had ever gone before. They wanted to say hello to whoever might be listening in the stars. The message they prepared was harmless, or at least that's what they believed. It was a mix of greetings in many Earth languages, a few pieces of music, and finally, a short speech by a military leader, meant to show that humans were united and ready to defend their home if needed. The speech said, "We will protect our home against all who threaten it. We will not kneel. We will survive." To the scientists, it was a proud statement of peace through strength. To them, it was simply a reminder that Earth had come a long way, from endless wars to a time of global cooperation. But when that same message was picked up by alien satellites orbiting the distant colony world of Ryden, the words didn't sound peaceful at all. The galactic translation system struggled with human tone and meaning. They didn't understand the idea of defense the way humans did. The message they heard, after translation errors and lost context, sounded like a threat. The alien interpreters read it as, "We will not kneel before any power. We will fight all who oppose us. We will survive your destruction." Within hours, the signal reached the Galactic Counselor group of powerful alien civilizations that governed peace among more than 200 species. When the message arrived, it was played in the great silver halls of Valora Prime, a massive floating city that served as the Council's capital. The moment the words echoed through the chamber, silence fell. The Council members stared at each other, their eyes wide with disbelief. "Who sent this?" demanded Counselor Eshron, a tall, feathered alien whose people had not known war for thousands of years. "Unknown," replied a communications officer, "but the signal comes from a small blue planet in the Sol System designation, Earth." The name alone made some of the council members nervous. Earth had been mentioned before, though only in whispers. It was one of the few worlds the council had chosen to observe, but never contact directly. Rumors said that humans were unpredictable, emotional, and sometimes aggressive. They had built weapons before learning how to travel to other stars. They had fought themselves long before they looked outward. Now, this message sounded like the final proof. Within minutes, reports spread across the galaxy. "The humans have declared war." In the council's war room, glowing star maps lit up as fleets began to prepare. Generals of many species exchanged worried glances. They had seen data on human evolution, how they had survived cold, heat, hunger, and countless disasters. No other species had been forced to struggle so much just to live. "They were born on a world that tried to kill them," said one general quietly, "and yet they conquered it." Another general, older and more experienced, nodded slowly. "If their message is true, if they intend to fight, then the galaxy is in danger. Their planet is small, but their will is ... frightening." Across light years, panic grew. Civilizations that had known nothing but peace for ages began to fear the unknown. The galactic media spread dramatic headlines. "The Terrans have risen. Prepare for war. The silent world speaks." Meanwhile, on Earth, no one knew what was happening. The scientists who sent the message were celebrating its success. They laughed, clapped hands, and drank coffee as they watched their data screens, unaware that somewhere far away, entire alien armies were mobilizing because of a single misunderstood speech. In the following days, the Galactic Council held urgent meetings. They replayed the human transmission hundreds of times, each time growing more unsettled. One alien linguist suggested it might be a mistake. "Perhaps they meant peace, not war," she said softly. "Humans are known to use strong language even when they are not angry." But her words were drowned out by louder voices. "We cannot take that risk," shouted another counselor. "If they are as dangerous as their history suggests, then we must act before they do." And so, the council sent out an official notice to every allied world: "Prepare defenses. The species known as humans has declared war on the galaxy." Outposts near human space began scanning for incoming ships. Fleets formed tight formations. Soldiers were trained for battle against an enemy they had never seen. But among all the chaos and fear, one alien officer named General Zara of the Rin Collective watched in silence. He was older than most, wise enough to remember that fear often causes mistakes. He stared at the human message again, replaying it in his mind. There was something different about it, something that others didn't seem to hear. The voice that spoke those words didn't sound hateful. It sounded determined, even hopeful. "We will survive." The phrase echoed in his thoughts. Zara began to suspect that maybe the humans weren't declaring war at all. Maybe they were declaring their right to live. But the decision was already made. The fleets were moving. The galaxy was preparing for a war that humans didn't even know existed, and on the little blue planet spinning quietly around its sun, the people of Earth looked up at the night sky, dreaming about the day they might finally meet other intelligent life, completely unaware that, somewhere in that same sky, 1,000 alien eyes were already watching them with fear. It was the beginning of a misunderstanding so great that it would shake the stars themselves. And as the Galactic Council gathered one last time before launching their fleets, the High Chancellor raised his voice and said, "May the stars protect us." We have angered the deadliest species in the galaxy, but far away on Earth, humanity slept peacefully, still innocent, still curious, never imagining that by simply sending a message of strength, they had accidentally declared war on the entire galaxy. On the shining world of Valora Prime, home of the Galactic Council, panic had turned into chaos. Inside the enormous glass-walled chamber where the council met, hundreds of alien representatives shouted at once. Their voices echoed across the hall, filled with fear and confusion. They said they will not kneel. One ambassador cried. They said they will fight all who threaten them. Another added, this is a declaration of war. The High Chancellor, an ancient being of light named Sarithan, struck the floor with his staff. A deep hum silenced the crowd. Order, Sarithan said in a calm but tired voice. We will not let fear control us. We must study this species first. We must understand who they are before we decide what to do. But even as he spoke, the chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Data screens showed human history images of cities, ships, armies, and faces filled with determination. To the aliens, it was both fascinating and frightening. A silver-scaled officer stepped forward, his expression grave. Honored Council, he said, bowing slightly, I have served as an observer in the Sol system for 30 years. I have seen their ways. Humans are not like us. They are unpredictable. They love peace but are drawn to conflict. They destroy but also rebuild. They are impossible to measure. His words filled the room with unease. Another ambassador, with golden eyes and soft wings, whispered, how can a species hold both kindness and aggression in the same heart? No one had an answer. In the quiet corners of Valora Prime, scientists and historians gathered around massive holographic displays, reviewing human history. They watched records of natural disasters, wars, and recoveries. They watched as humans rebuilt their homes after every tragedy. They never give up, said one researcher softly. They lose everything, and then they start again. It's almost ... inspiring. But her colleague shook his head. Or terrifying. Imagine a species that cannot be defeated not because of weapons, but because of will. That single thought began spreading like wildfire. To most of the galaxy, humans now seemed less like a threat of technology and more like a force of nature, something unstoppable once provoked. Meanwhile, fleets began to mobilize. Massive ships floated in orbit around Valora Prime, gleaming under the twin suns. Generals reviewed maps of the Sol system, planning defense strategies and evacuation routes just in case. In one of the command centers, General Zara of the Rin Collective stood in silence. He was known as a calm and fair leader, respected by all for his wisdom. He had seen many conflicts long ago before the galaxy united under peace. Now, as he watched the trembling officers around him, Zara felt a strange emotion. He turned to his assistant, a young officer named Ilo, and said, have you ever met a human? No, General Nilo replied. Only read about them in reports. Then listen carefully, Zara said quietly. Reports tell you numbers and facts, but they never tell you the truth about hearts. I have studied their culture. I have read their songs, their stories, their art. They are not conquerors by nature. They fight only when they must. Nilo frowned. But the message, General, it sounded like a challenge. Zara nodded. Yes, but think, who were they challenging? Perhaps not us. Perhaps they were only reminding themselves to stay strong. The young officer said nothing, but the idea stayed in his mind. Back in the council chamber, the debate raged on. Some demanded that Earth be isolated immediately. Others argued for peaceful contact. A nervous voice spoke from the back. It was Ambassador Tline, representing a peaceful water-dwelling species. If humans truly mean war, they will destroy themselves trying to destroy us. But if this is a misunderstanding, and we attack first, then we will become the monsters. Her words made many pause. Even the High Chancellor's light flickered slightly, as if uncertain. Yet fear was a heavy shadow that reason could not easily chase away. We cannot risk it, said one of the senior counselors. If even half of the stories about humans are true, how they adapt, how they endure, then allowing them to act freely is dangerous. They might not have advanced ships yet, but they have something worse. Determination. The hall fell silent again. Determination. That word struck everyone like an echo. Meanwhile, in the far edges of the galaxy, ordinary citizens began to worry. Shops closed early. Travelers canceled flights to Earth's sector. Children whispered stories about the scary humans who could survive anything. In schools, teachers tried to calm their students. Do not fear, they said. The council will protect us. But even they spoke with shaking voices on Valora Prime. The grand skyline that usually shimmered with peace now felt tense and restless. Patrol ships filled the skies. Security drones hovered over markets. The galaxy was holding its breath. And in one quiet observation deck overlooking the stars, General Zara stood alone, looking toward the faint glimmer of Earth's sun. He whispered to himself, I have seen empires rise and fall, but I have never seen a people like them. They fight storms, hunger, even themselves, and somehow, they still find time to dream. He turned to his communicator and sent a private message to the High Chancellor. I advise patience. Do not mistake courage for aggression. I believe this declaration of war is a misunderstanding. Let me go to them. Let me see these humans with my own eyes. But the reply was cold and final denied. The council has already voted. Prepare your fleet, General. The humans are coming. Zara sighed and looked again at the stars. Deep down, he knew the truth. Humans were not coming for war. They didn't even know one had begun. The galaxy, in all its fear and pride, had just created an enemy out of misunderstanding. And as the stars twinkled silently across the black sky, Zara whispered, almost sadly, the deadliest species in the galaxy ... may not be the humans. It may be our own fear. The day the galactic fleet reached Earth was supposed to be historic. For thousands of years, the galaxy had watched humanity from afar, curious, cautious, and sometimes afraid. But now, the moment had come to finally make contact. However, the fleet that approached Earth was not filled with diplomats or explorers. It was filled with soldiers, ready for war. General Zara stood at the command deck of his flagship, the Valiant Star, watching the small blue world grow larger in the viewing window. Around him, hundreds of ships shimmered in formation. Their engines glowed softly against the dark of space. It should have been a beautiful sight, but to him, it felt like a mistake taking shape. General, said his aide Nilo, the fleet is in position. Orders. Zara didn't answer immediately. His gaze stayed fixed on Earth. The planet looked peaceful, oceans shining, clouds drifting slowly, green continents alive with movement. There was no sign of hostility, no fleets, no defenses ready for battle. He sighed. They don't even know we're here, he said quietly. Look at them, Nilo. Does that look like a species preparing for war? Nilo hesitated. Maybe they're hiding their strength, sir. Or maybe, Zara replied softly, we're the ones making a terrible mistake. On Earth, life went on as usual. The humans had no idea what was coming. In one of the tall glass towers of New Geneva, a group of international scientists and diplomats were gathered for a special announcement. They were waiting for the first response to the message they had sent months ago into space. The one they believed was a friendly greeting. The leader of the project, Dr. Alina Carter, stood before the media, smiling nervously. Today, she said proudly, we may finally receive a signal from another intelligent civilization. This could be the greatest day in human history. Her words were met with applause and excitement. All across the planet, people gathered near screens and radios, waiting. The signal from space was expected to arrive within the hour. But what they didn't know was that the signal wasn't a reply. It was the sensor echo of a massive alien fleet entering orbit, high above Earth. In the orbit of the moon, the first alien ship, uncloaked, to the humans monitoring space traffic, it looked like a comet at first, a bright object reflecting sunlight. But then it slowed down, stopped, and split into smaller shapes. Control, a technician at the International Space Station said slowly. We've got multiple unknown objects near lunar orbit. They're not debris. They're organized. Organized. How? Came the reply. The technician hesitated. Formation flight. Perfect formation. Back on Earth, the control rooms erupted in confusion. Satellites turned, telescopes focused, and the data started pouring in. Within minutes, the truth became undeniable. They weren't asteroids or natural bodies. They were ships. Alien ships. Inside the galactic flagship, Zara received the report. General, said his communications officer, the humans have detected us. Zara nodded. Then we must act with care. No weapons, no threats. Prepare the translation devices. I'll go down personally. He gave the order to descend toward the planet. Even though the council's instructions were clear, observe from a distance until the human threat is confirmed. But Zara didn't believe the humans were a threat. He wanted to see their eyes, to hear their voices. Moments later, his shuttle broke through the Earth's atmosphere, glowing like a falling star. Below him, fields, oceans, and cities rushed into view. He saw lights flickering across continents, cars moving like tiny sparks, and people staring up at the sky, pointing in awe. He smiled faintly. They look amazed, not afraid, he whispered. The shuttle landed in a wide, grassy field near the outskirts of Geneva. Security forces surrounded it quickly, their vehicles forming a ring at a safe distance. Cameras zoomed in. Reporters shouted questions. The world held its breath. The ship's door opened slowly with a hiss. And out stepped General Zara. His tall, slender figure shimmered slightly in the sunlight. His skin reflected soft shades of blue and silver, and his eyes, calm and bright, scanned the humans curiously. For a moment, no one moved. Then Dr. Alina Carter, heart pounding but smiling bravely, stepped forward. She raised her hand in greeting. Welcome to Earth, she said clearly. Zara blinked in surprise. Her tone was friendly. Her eyes were honest. It was not what he expected from a dangerous species. He bowed slightly in return, speaking through his translator device. I am General Zara of the Rin Collective. I come on behalf of the Galactic Council. The translator repeated his words in human language. The crowd gasped. Cameras captured every second. Dr. Carter took a careful step closer. We sent a message into space, she said. Was it received? Zara hesitated, unsure how to explain the chaos that message had caused. Yes, he said slowly. But there has been a misunderstanding. In orbit, however, the rest of the galactic fleet watched nervously. Some commanders misread the situation. When they saw the human military vehicles surrounding Zara's shuttle, they thought he was being threatened. Alarms sounded through the fleet. "Protect the general," one captain shouted. "They've captured him." "No." Zara's voice boomed through the comm channel as he tried to stop them. "Stand down. They are not hostile." But it was too late. The tension spread too fast. Dozens of ships shifted position, activating their shields. Down on Earth, humans saw strange lights flickering in the sky. The diplomats panicked, thinking the aliens were preparing to attack. Human defense systems went online instantly. The peaceful meeting suddenly filled with confusion and fear. Dr. Carter looked at Zara with wide eyes. "What's happening?" she whispered. Chara turned toward the sky, his voice calm but heavy. "Fear," he said softly, "on both sides." For the next few hours, chaos nearly broke loose. But Zara refused to leave. He stayed there, standing between two frightened worlds, trying to speak peace, with patience and calm. He explained everything, how the council had misunderstood the human message, how they believed it was a declaration of war, and how the fleet came prepared for battle. The humans listened in shock. Dr. Carter's eyes filled with disbelief. "We never meant to threaten anyone," she said. "We only wanted to say hello." Zara gave a small smile. "Sometimes," he said gently, "the simplest words can be the hardest to understand." At last, after long hours of careful talking, both sides began to calm down. The fleets in orbit powered down their shields. Human forces lowered their weapons, and the stars above Earth seemed to shine a little brighter that night. That first meeting between humans and the Galactic Council almost turned into a disaster, but instead, it became a lesson in humility. Both sides realized how fragile peace could be, and how easily fear could turn it into danger. As Zara returned to his ship, he looked down at Earth one last time. "They were never our enemies," he whispered. "They were only reaching out, and we were too afraid to take their hand." Far below, humans watched the ships disappear into the night sky, wondering what would happen next. They didn't know that their message, the one that began it all, had already changed the galaxy forever. The misunderstanding had shaken the entire galaxy. For weeks after the first contact, every world under the Galactic Council watched the situation with fear and confusion. Some believed the humans were dangerous. Others thought they had been wrongly accused. The truth remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer an unknown name whispered in secret meetings. They were now a reality the galaxy could no longer ignore. After long discussions, a decision was made. To clear all doubts, the humans invited the Galactic Council to visit Earth, not for talks this time, but to see humanity with their own eyes. They wanted to show who they truly were. General Zara supported the idea immediately. He believed that seeing humans up close would change everything. "They are not what we think," he told the council. "Let them show you what they can do, not with weapons, but with spirit." And so, the council agreed. A small group of alien generals, scholars, and ambassadors traveled to Earth under Zara's command. The fleet entered orbit once again, but this time there were no raised shields, no hidden weapons, only curiosity and cautious hope. When the alien delegation landed, they were greeted not with soldiers, but with a crowd of scientists, teachers, children, and leaders from every nation. Flags from all countries waved side by side. For the first time, humanity stood truly united, not against anyone, but for something greater. The visitors were surprised by Earth's atmosphere, the scent of ocean breeze, the green of trees, the bright sky. Some of them had never seen such a lively planet before. Dr. Elena Carter, now representing Earth officially, smiled as she welcomed them. "This is our home," she said warmly. "We may look fragile, but every part of this world has taught us how to survive." The aliens exchanged quiet glances. They could feel the sincerity in her words. Over the next few days, the visitors toured the planet. They saw humans farming on mountains, fishing in deep blue seas, working together in laboratories, building cities, and helping one another. Everywhere they went, they saw effort and teamwork, small acts of care that seemed ordinary to humans but extraordinary to outsiders. On the fourth day, Zara attended a special demonstration organized by Earth's defense and exploration forces. It was meant to show the aliens how humans trained not to fight others, but to protect life and to survive in any condition. The training field stretched across a wide desert valley. The sun burned bright, and the air shimmered with heat. Hundreds of soldiers stood in lines, their uniforms dusty, their faces tired but proud. When the signal sounded, they began their exercise, climbing steep walls, running across rough terrain, carrying heavy packs, and helping each other every step of the way. Zara watched closely. He noticed that whenever one soldier fell, two others stopped to lift him. When one stumbled from exhaustion, others shared their water. There was no shouting, no pride, only silent strength. One alien officer beside him whispered, "They seem weak. They tire quickly." Zara shook his head slowly. "Look closer," he said. "They may fall, but none of them stay down." Minutes turned into hours. The humans continued, sweat pouring down their faces, yet they smiled through it. Their determination burned brighter than the desert sun. After the exercise ended, The alien guests were led to a small camp nearby, where the soldiers rested. They laughed, sang, and shared stories, as if the exhausting day had been nothing. One soldier even offered his ration pack to a visiting alien, saying with a grin, "It's not fancy food, but it keeps you going." The alien hesitated, then tasted it, and smiled for the first time. Something began to change in the atmosphere. The tension that had filled the visitors' hearts started to fade. They realized that these humans weren't cold warriors or reckless fighters. They were people who cared deeply about one another, people who endured pain together and still found joy in small things. Later that evening, as the sun set over the desert, Zara stood beside Dr. Carter, watching the sky turn orange and gold. "Now you see us as we are," she said softly. "Not perfect, not invincible, but we never give up. That's who we are." Zara nodded slowly. "Your strength is not in weapons or numbers," he said. "It is in your hearts. You carry a kind of power that cannot be taught, only earned." He looked thoughtful, almost emotional. "No wonder your message sounded so fierce. You have lived through storms and still found light. To some, that looks like war. To me, it looks like courage." The next day, the aliens visited schools and hospitals. They met children who asked curious questions about stars and planets. They met doctors who worked tirelessly to heal others. They even watched engineers design machines, meant not for destruction, but to clean oceans and grow food in dry lands. Everywhere they went, they saw the same spirit, the desire to build, to explore, to make things better. By the time the visit neared its end, even the most skeptical ambassadors began to whisper among themselves. "Perhaps we were wrong about them." One scholar, taking notes, said quietly, "They are dangerous. Yes, but not because they seek war. They are dangerous because they never stop believing in tomorrow." Those words spread quickly through the delegation, carried from one mind to another, until even the most fearful began to feel admiration. On the final day of their visit, a ceremony was held at the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from both sides stood together under the bright sky. There were no walls, no barriers, just understanding. Dr. Carter gave a simple speech. "We may come from different worlds," she said, "but we share the same wish, to live, to learn, and to grow. Let our first misunderstanding become the lesson that unites us." Then General Zara stepped forward. He spoke slowly, his voice steady and full of respect. "When we came here, we saw you as a threat," he said. "We feared your strength, but now, I see that your true strength lies not in war, but in hope. You are a people who fall and rise again, over and over, and that is something the galaxy must learn from." As he finished, a quiet applause began, first from the humans, then from the aliens. The sound grew louder until it filled the entire plaza. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans not as monsters or mysteries, but as equals. That night, as the alien fleet prepared to leave, Zara stood at the window of his ship, looking down at Earth's glowing surface. He smiled softly. "Once, I thought they were our greatest danger," he said to Nilo, his young aide. "Now I see they may be our greatest teachers." Nilo nodded, watching the blue planet fade into the distance. "Do you think the Council will believe what we saw?" Zara smiled faintly. "They will, because soon, every world in the galaxy will know the truth. Humanity's power is not destruction, but survival. And that," he said, his eyes reflecting the stars, "is something even the oldest empires will learn to respect." The day after the alien delegation left Earth, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Messages traveled through space at the speed of light, some filled with questions, others filled with doubt. No one knew what the Council would say. Would they still see humans as a danger, or had something finally changed? On Valora Primi, the Galactic Council chamber was silent when General Zara returned. He stood before the great circle of lights and holographic faces, leaders from hundreds of worlds, all waiting for his report. The High Chancellor, glowing with steady light, spoke first. "General Zara," he said, his voice echoing softly, "you were sent to Earth to observe the humans. Tell us, are they the threat we feared?" Zara took a slow breath. Around him, the air shimmered faintly, filled with quiet tension. Then he said simply, "No, Chancellor. They are not a threat. They are a warning, a reminder of what strength truly means." The chamber stirred with whispers. Some counselors leaned forward, others frowned in disbelief. Zara continued, his voice calm but filled with conviction. "We believed humans were dangerous because they have fought to survive. But I have seen the truth. Their courage does not come from hate, it comes from hope. They fight not to destroy others, but to protect life, to protect each other. That is what we feared, but it is also what we must learn from." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "They have mastered something most of us have forgotten. Resilience, the will to stand up again after every fall. We call them dangerous because they never surrender. But perhaps that is not danger. Perhaps that is greatness." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. Some still doubted. "You speak kindly of them, General," one voice said, "but kindness can be a mask. What if their peace hides their true power?" Zara turned toward the speaker. "It does," he said softly. "Their true power is not in weapons. It is in unity, in compassion. I saw soldiers share their last drink with a friend. I saw scientists building tools, not for war, but for healing. I saw children dream of exploring the stars, not conquering them. Their strength lies in the fact that they care deeply and endlessly. That is what makes them powerful. He looked around the chamber, his eyes calm but piercing. If we ever turn against them, we will not just lose a war, we will lose our own hearts. Because to fight humans is to fight the very idea of survival itself. For a long time, no one spoke. The words hung in the air like distant thunder. Then, slowly, the High Chancellor rose from his seat. General Zara, he said, your words carry weight. The Council will deliberate. Hours passed. Worlds waited. Across the galaxy, entire populations sat in front of screens and speakers, waiting for the Council's final message. On distant moons, in ocean cities, and among desert colonies, creatures of all kinds listened in silence. Finally, the Council's decision came. The High Chancellor's voice was calm but filled with awe. To all civilizations under the Galactic Accord, he said, the Council has spoken. The species known as humans are not our enemies. They are to be respected and protected. Let it be known across the stars. If you meet them, do so in peace. He paused, then added words that would later be repeated in every language. On every world, do not mistake their kindness for weakness. For when the humans rise, they rise together. And no storm, no darkness, can break a people who never stop believing in tomorrow. The message spread through the galaxy like sunlight breaking through clouds. On Earth, when the transmission arrived, people gathered in city streets and parks to listen. Huge screens displayed the Chancellor's speech, and the moment he spoke those words, a wave of relief and pride swept through the world. Dr. Elena Carter stood among the crowd, tears in her eyes as she watched families hug each other. They finally understand, she whispered. They finally see who we are. Nearby, a small boy looked up at her and asked, does this mean we can go to the stars now? Elena smiled softly. Yes, she said. But this time, we'll go not to prove ourselves. We'll go to share what we've learned. Meanwhile, far away on Valora Prime, Zara stood on his balcony overlooking the shining city. The twin suns cast golden light across the horizon. He closed his eyes and felt peace for the first time in many years. Nilo, his young aide, joined him quietly. It's over, isn't it? He asked. Zara nodded. No, he said. It's just beginning. The humans have changed everything. They reminded us that peace is not the absence of fear, it's the choice to rise above it. He looked up at the stars, at the tiny blue spark that was Earth. For centuries we have called ourselves advanced, but it took a small world, full of imperfect beings, to teach us the true meaning of strength. In the years that followed, Earth became known as the rising world. Instead of being feared, humans became respected teachers and explorers. They helped rebuild broken worlds, shared their technology, and learned from others in return. Their story became a legend told to younglings in classrooms across the stars. Once, teachers would say, the galaxy feared the humans, but they did not destroy us. They showed us how to be brave again. Monuments were built not to war, but to understanding. And in the great halls of the Galactic Council, a new inscription was placed on the wall behind the Chancellor's seat. Strength is not in power. Strength is in never giving up hope. Years later, General Zara visited Earth again. The planet had changed. Shining spaceports reached into the clouds, and ships bearing both human and alien symbols launched daily into the sky. Children of two worlds played together in the parks, laughing under the same blue sun. Dr. Carter, now older but still smiling, welcomed him warmly. We've come a long way, haven't we? She said. Zara looked around and nodded slowly. When I first came here, I saw you as a threat. Now I see you as a promise. They stood together, watching a group of human and alien pilots preparing for a joint mission. The ships bore a new emblem, a circle of stars around a single blue planet. Zara smiled. That symbol suits you, he said. You've united what once was divided. Dr. Carter laughed softly. We just did what humans always do, she replied. We kept trying.